Good morning, Jedis. It is time for Chapter 7 of Small Spaces. We do have permission from the author of this book. It was still raining by the time that they got done with homeroom. Ollie had listened to the announcement with half an ear, fingers itching for her book. She could still hear Mr. Easton's voice saying, "They never found any bodies." But Ollie didn't have time to read yet. They were going to the farm. The bell rang and the sixth grade piled outside, pulling on caps and coats and backpacks. The buses squatted in the middle of the wet parking lot like a prehistoric swamp monster, the two golden eyes of its headlight gleaming out through the fog. Mr. Easton popped out the bus door and the swamp monster delusion dissolved. "Hurry up," he shouted, waving his arm. The sixth grade hurried through the rain. Already rows of faces peered through the bus's misted up windows. Ollie splashed across the puddled parking lot, cradling her book under her rain jacket. The bus was steamy warm. "There you are, Ollie," said Mr. Easton. Ollie didn't answer. She was frowning at the bus driver. He was big with a thick gray beard. In fact, he was short of gray all over. Gray-white, mushroom-colored, except his lips were red. He gave her a shifting sideways grin. Ollie decided she didn't like his grin. "Where's Miss Hodges?" she asked. Miss Hodges was their usual driver. She had been driving Evansburg school buses forever. She would call students by the older sibling's name, then sometimes ask Ollie with vaguely sympathetic tone what she was reading. "Resting," said the bus driver. Ollie, for no reason at all, thought of the skeleton in the Brewster's attic lurching down the stairs. "Had the rest," did Miss Hodges. "Ollie," said Mr. Easton, "first of all, be polite. Second of all, find a seat. It's time to go. Mr. Jones, was it? Works on the farm. He's very kindly volunteered to take over for Miss Hodges. Such a beautiful misty weather. What an adventure we'll have today, Ollie, not being part walrus, did not like bad weather. Also, the bus driver didn't seem much like a Mr. Jones to her, but Mr. Easton was getting impatient. Ollie peered down the aisle. There were no empty seats except... No, really? The only empty spot next to Brian Battersby. Well, sort of empty. Even though Brian wasn't that big, he took up most of the seats, sprawling and joking with his two friends in front of him. Why wasn't one of them sitting next to him? Hockey stars didn't sit by themselves. Ollie marched down the aisle. Coco Zittner was sitting next to Monica Damron, who had headphones on and was ignoring her. Coco was scribbling in her sparkly notebook. Ollie, glancing down, saw that the notebook was open to a drawing of a chessboard and a lot of arrows and crossouts. This surprised Ollie. In her mind, Coco Zittner and the chess diagrams didn't go together. Ollie looked closer. Coco's drawing was a picture of an endgame, the last few moves of a match. The white side was losing, and before she could stop herself, Ollie murmured, "White castle to h6 and mate in 5 moves." The new girl jumped, looked at her paper, then looked up at Ollie. A sunrise of open-mouthed delight dawned on her face. In fact, she looked so happy that it made Ollie feel snappish. Obviously, she added, snappish because of memory. Her mother had been a math professor at Evansburg College. She had taught Ollie math with games, multiplication, division, later algebra, then geometry, symbols like magic spells written on the skim of the world. She would entertain Ollie on hikes by setting her a problem at the trailhead and asking for an answer at the top of the mountain. One night, Ollie had overheard her mom whisper to her dad, "Well, Olivia is better than I was at her age. Let's try her on music and chess. They often go together with math." They had put the upright piano in the entranceway of the egg, the only place it would fit, and Ollie had begun plucking out songs. They'd given her a chess set, and Ollie still remembered the taste of triumph, of the celebratory, hold on guys, piece of apple pie on the evening she'd first beaten her mom without having been spotted a piece. But the piano had sat silently for nearly a year now, and Ollie's dad wasn't good at chess. Coco took no notice to Ollie's turn. "You play chess?" she said with a shrill of delight. Ollie supposed Coco had a right to be surprised. Coco hadn't known Ollie before. Coco was so excited she began to wrinkle the paper up in her lap. "You want to play? I don't have a set, but we can call it." "No," said Ollie. But Coco dropped at once. "Gotta go." Ollie beat the hasty retreat to the aisle of the bus and halted next to Brian. "Move," she said. Mike Camel and Phil Greenblatt peered interestedly over the seat in front. Brian looked like he was trying extra hard to be cool. What if I don't want to? Ollie popped. That dumb nickname. Her ears burned. Not my problem, Ollie retorted. It's not my fault you're wider than you are tall. Mike and Phil laughed. Brian, to Ollie's surprise, suddenly slid over. Was it her imagination, or was he looking embarrassed too? All yours, he said. Ollie sat down, keeping a suspicious eye on Brian. First he got her out of detention, and now he was... A thought struck her. Did you save me a seat, she asked. What? Said Brian. He was definitely right about the ears. No. She eyed him. He turned studiously to look out the window. Ollie stared, then shrugged. Let boys be a mystery for another day. There was a mystery in her book in front of her. Ollie opened Small Spaces. John, I said, what are you going to do? Go with him, said Jonathan, his voice thick with despair. I promised. In exchange for Caleb, I have to go, or he'll take Caleb instead. We made a bargain, you see, but it might not be for long. He tried to sound reassuring, but I don't think he even believed it until the mist becomes rain. What does that mean? I don't know, but Beth, he kept his side of the bargain. Caleb died that night. I told you, and I told him you and I were engaged. I trembled. No, he didn't. John, you're not thinking properly. Of course he didn't die. He came home. He came home 3 nights later. Yes, said John, because the smiling man and I made a bargain. I think he knew he was getting the better end of the deal, and that's why he smiled. Caleb died 30 years ago, and now I have to go with him in the mist. What are you reading, Ollie? Asked Brian. Ollie looked up. Was Brian trying to be nice again? People's parents did sometimes tell their kids to be nice to that girl, because you know what happened to the poor thing. The thought was a nasty edge in her voice when she answered, Are you blind? A book. Ah, said Brian. He angled his head to get a better look at the book's cover. What book? I've never seen it before. Did you get it from the library? How would you know what's in the library, Ollie thought. It's called Small Spaces, she said, biting off each word. She lifted the cover to show him, which you could read but for yourself if you could read. Usually one nasty remark was enough to put people off being nice. There was a small silence. Well, I only learned reading and writing, Brian said conversationally to the top of her head, and then the different branches of arithmetic, ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision. What? Ollie knew where she'd heard that sentence before. She could feel her mouth sagging open in a way that she didn't think people did in real life. Mystery, ancient, and modern, Brian went on, leaning back in his seat, looking smug. With seography, then drawing, but oops, they forgot reading. Sorry to bug you. And with that, he leaned forward to join in the conversation between Mike and Phil. Yeah, when he took that third shot and faked the goalie left, you might get to know characters in a book, Ollie thought. But getting to know a human was an entirely different thing. She tried to keep reading, but couldn't. Her mom's voice was logged in her brain too deeply to be forgettable. You were rude, Olivia, said her mother's voice. You judged him, and he didn't deserve it. Ollie told herself she didn't care. Yes, she did. She shut her book, a finger holding the page. It's about a girl named Beth, she said to Brian. She lives on the old farm called Smoke Hollow, sort of like Misty Valley. Then Ollie couldn't resist asking, Have you memorized Alice in Wonderland? Not really bits, said Brian, looking cautious, as though he were admiring to something too weird for a hockey star. I just like the words in that part. I could tell you most of the Jabberwocky if you like, for all the good it will do you. He stopped talking. Ollie had stopped listening. She was looking past him, out through the curtains of the rain. Who was that? A little boy in a brown coat standing just at the edge of the cornfield, but his face was still and colorless. Who is that? Ollie said, pointing. Brian turned his head to follow her finger. I don't see anything. He looked like... No, what was she thinking? It was just a scarecrow in a suit. Ollie didn't like scarecrows. When the light was weird, like now in the rain, they almost looked alive. Stupid scarecrows. Never mind, Ollie said. They passed a sign, Misty Valley Farm and Gardens. In the last moments before the bus rolled to a stop, Ollie's page back to the book's epigraph. Avoid the large places at night. Ollie touched the words, wishing she had understood. The sun was coming out. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. Thick, surprising sunbeams slanted through the clouds. The bus turned into the farm gate. They parked in a big gravel parking lot, and the engine cut off. A few people had put down their windows when the rain stopped. The smell of cows and garlic floated in. The students filed off the bus. When she got to the front, Ollie glanced sideways towards the bus driver. To her surprise, he was gone. A tall woman was waiting at the bus door, directing the kids as they came off. She wore a plaid shirt and muddy boots. Ollie saw her and froze. Linda Webster, owner of the Misty Valley Farm, was the woman from yesterday. The woman whose book Ollie had stolen. Dun, dun, dun. Tune in tomorrow for Chapter 8 of Small Spaces. Have a great day, everyone.